Oklahoma Supreme Court has dismissed the Tulsa Race Massacre case. I'm going to remind you of the horrific reality of what happened and give you the update as to the new horrible thing that has been done. Here it is.
On June 1st, 1921, 9-year-old Eldoris McCondichie was awakened by her mother. What her mother said next, she never forgot.
She says, we have to go out, get out. She says, the white people are killing the colored people.
Eldoris grew up in the Greenwood area of Tulsa, a buoyant, bustling community of some 10,000 African Americans. There were schools, churches, stores, theaters, and a hospital.
It was a place where, for African Americans, the American dream was working.
The residents of Greenwood try to defend their neighborhood, but they don't have a chance. The National Guard sprays the residents with machine gun fire, and it gets worse.
You have something new up in the air, and its airplanes start flying over Greenwood. There is evidence, and I believe this firmly, that at least on one of the airplanes, a co-pilot is dropping sticks of dynamite down on Greenwood.
Greenwood is left a smoldering ruin. 9,000 people left homeless. The dead uncounted. Estimates range from 75 to 300.
This was all perpetrated by our governments, plural. Multiple governments decided to join forces in order to do this kind of damage, carnage against citizens of the United States of America. There are some who are still living today that experienced the carnage directly. Put up the picture full mass. In an update, the Oklahoma Supreme Court has decided to completely dismiss the Tulsa Race Massacre case. The case is considered to be the last opportunity for the survivors of the massacre. Leslie Benefield Rangel and Viola Ford Fletcher. This was their last opportunity to receive compensation for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre that occurred over 2 days in the city's thriving Greenwood district, also known as Black Wall Street. A white mob killed hundreds of residents and burned down homes and black businesses. If you would like to do a little research independent of this story, you will find that America had many Black Wall Streets. Tulsa was one. You will also find that many of those economically advantaged, booming, self-sufficient Black communities were destroyed by a similar fate. With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. Put them up full mass. This is your Oklahoma Supreme Court, made up of Justices M. John Kane, IV, Destin Rowe, Yvonne Kager, James Winchester, Douglas Combs, Noma Gurich, Richard Darby, and Dana Kuhn. They ruled 8-1 to uphold a July 2023 decision that completely dismissed the case as well. Justice James E. Edmondson was the sole dissenting vote, though the court documents listed him as concurs in part and dissents in part. With respect to their public nuisance claim, though plaintiffs' grievances are legitimate, they do not fall within the scope of our state's public nuisance statute. The conclusion reads, there's more. This is a response from Tulsa officials. The city of Tulsa, the defendant, provided the following statement to News 9, quote, "The city of Tulsa respects the court's decision and affirms the significance of the work the city continues to do in the North Tulsa and Greenwood communities through economic development and policy projects, the 1921 Graves investigation, and a renewed community vision for the Kirkpatrick Heights and Greenwood Master Plan. The city remains committed to working with residents and providing resources to people, the North Tulsa and Greenwood communities. Put up the pictures again of the women who likely will not have another chance. You see, the city could have just made them whole. If the city truly believes the words that they told the local news, they could have simply made those women whole. They could have made them whole. They did not. The lawsuit, which was filed in 2020 on behalf of Randall, who's 109 years old, and Ms. Fletcher, who's 110. Hughes Van Ellis also sought damages under Oklahoma's public nuisance law. Van Ellis, the other survivor of the massacre, died at 102. What happens next? Quote, there is no going to the United States Supreme Court. There is no going to the federal court system. This is it. That's what the attorney told CNN in April. In a statement, the legal team for the survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre said they will file a petition for rehearing the Oklahoma Supreme Court, asking the court to reconsider its decision. Back in 2021, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill outlawing the teaching of some race and racism concepts in public schools. Here's what State Superintendent Ron Walters said when asked about the teaching of the Tulsa riot going forward.
Tulsa Race Massacre not fall under your definition of CRT?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't address that part. I would never tell a kid that because of your race, because of your color of your skin, or your gender, or anything like that, you are less of a person or are inherently racist. That doesn't mean you don't judge the actions of individuals. Oh, you can absolutely, historically you should. This was right, this was wrong. They did this for this reason. But to say it was inherent in that because of their skin is where I say that is critical race theory. You're saying that a race defines a person. I reject that. So I would say you be judgmental of the issue, of the action, of the content, of the character of the individual, absolutely. But let's not tie it to the skin color and say that the skin color determined that.
How does the Tulsa Race Massacre not fall under your definition of CRT?
I answered it. That's my answer. And again, I felt
the Tulsa Race Massacre was a race massacre. How does it not fall under CRT?
I've answered your question. I do appreciate, very respectful.
You see? To the white people who don't get it, there are plenty of white people who do. And I'm thankful for your allied relationship. To the white people who don't get it, we're not blaming you. We know you did not take out whips or drop bombs. We know you did not purchase slaves. We're asking you to be intentional about dismantling the policies that your ancestors created, that today you still benefit from. If you are on our side and we truly are a post-racial society, you would have no problem deconstructing the construction. You see, because these things were intentionally designed in order to create a permanent underclass, you cannot allow for osmosis and permeation to destroy those constructed designs. You see, anything that has been constructed has to be intentionally deconstructed for it to no longer have effect. So we are asking that you join us in the intentional deconstructing of those constructed adversarial models. My heart's prayers, positive thoughts are with those who are still fighting for justice. And I would say this, those judges, they could have made a different decision. They could have said, in the interest of justice, in the interest of justice, we are going to make this right. It is the court of equitable remedy. They could have done so. All right, Yasmin, thoughts here.
Yeah, so this is disappointing, perhaps not surprising. Dismissing a case of this magnitude over a matter of scope is particularly difficult. But why would Oklahoma be now decide to be held accountable, or really to hold themselves accountable for something that they've been getting away with for 100 years now? Why would they choose to pay public funds to something that they don't have to pay? No one's going to make them pay these people or pay any kind of reparations or anything like that. They're not going to do it out of the goodness of their hearts. These are the last living survivors of the Tulsa Massacre. Once they're gone, Oklahoma won't have to hear about it anymore. So they're just going to wait this thing out. That's obviously what they're trying to do here. And then they'll be able to say to anyone who brings it up, the descendants of the victims, presumably, that they weren't actually there, so just move on. It's not your problem. The Oklahoma officials living today weren't there, so they'll say, why am I being blamed for something that I didn't do? Why should I atone for something that I didn't do? Why can't everyone just move on? And, to your point about people benefiting from things like slavery to this day, I was just in Boston and, it's one of the oldest cities in the country. There's all these giant historical, beautiful museums and buildings there. And I was in one and it was like an art museum, but a lot of the pieces were donated from, various wealthy families in the area. And everywhere you go, every room, every exhibit that you looked at, there was an acknowledgement that, like, yes, they had all this money because they were slave owners, or they earned this money from the slave trade, things like that. And those families are still benefiting from these museums now. They've donated a lot back to the city, but they're still benefiting from it. They still own these properties. So, I mean, we've seen it all before. We know how these things go. I unfortunately am not optimistic that things are going to change anytime soon, but it would really be nice to see some kind of victory somewhere.
Absolutely. And to the family members of those who are connected to the survivors of this massacre, if you have not already done so, I recommend that you set everything up in an estate in their names so you can have legal opportunity in the future to find equitable remedy for what took place.